Hello friend. I want to tell you about the Subaru Forester SJ car. Every Subaru Forester is a four-wheel drive car with a boxer engine. This means that we are dealing with a so-called symmetrical drive system, in which the left and right sides weigh the same and have the same number of components. The SJ was the first generation of the Forester in which the electronics controlling it had a greater significance than the drive structure itself. In manual gearboxes, a central differential mechanism was used, while in automatic gearboxes, a multi-plate clutch was used. In both cases, however, the drive was permanently transferred to both axles and worked equally effectively. With the X-mode system, the driver can select a driving mode depending on the terrain and trust the car to cope in a given situation. The traction control system and multi-plate clutch ensure that torque is delivered where it is needed most. The gearbox and engine adapt their operating characteristics to the conditions. The suspension design is quite simple at the front, McPherson struts, and has a multi-link arrangement at the rear. It is also worth mentioning the Lineatronic automatic gearbox, i.e. steepless, which may not appeal to everyone. However, the driver can choose manual gear change mode. Engines. Formerly, in Europe we had 3 engines to choose from, but many cars come from overseas, so in practice there are 4 variants of the Forester SJ on the secondary market. The American version was available with a naturally aspirated 2.5-liter unit with 171 horsepower. It is also worth knowing that this engine was offered on Eastern markets. The second naturally aspirated engine was the 2.0 with 150 HP. This is the only petrol engine that was offered with a manual gearbox. At the same time, the least dynamic unit. Interestingly, this is a design also known from the Subaru BRZ and Toyota GT86. Both naturally aspirated units have indirect petrol injection. The second petrol variant offered in Europe and the most dynamic engine in the range is the 2.0 petrol with turbocharging and direct injection. It develops 240 HP and accelerates the car to 100 km per hour in 7.5 seconds. It is worth emphasizing that this unit, FB20, is not related to the naturally aspirated one, FA20. The engines even have slightly different capacities. The diesel engine is a unique feature in the range. The 2-liter unit is also known from the older generation of the Forester and other models of the brand. It develops a modest power of 147 horsepower, but a good value of torque 350 Nm, available from 1,400 revolutions per minute. This engine was combined with a manual or automatic transmission. Which engine to choose? The diesel engine has the worst reviews among engines, although it is very good in terms of operation. It has good dynamics and burns less than 7L 100 km. For comparison, petrol units burn from 9L 100 km, naturally aspirated, to 11L 100 km, turbo. The golden mean may be the American 2.5-liter engine burning about 9.5L 100 km. Diesel, apart from its advantages while driving, has practically only disadvantages. It is very expensive to repair, parts only from Subaru, and unsuccessful. Despite many corrections, there are still such serious failures as a cracked crankshaft. In engines with a higher mileage, approximately 200,000 kilometers, one must reckon with failures of expensive accessories, turbo, injectors, dual mass, timing drive. Fortunately, such parts can be purchased as replacements. Petrol engines are rated well. The naturally aspirated unit in particular is considered trouble-free, and what's more, it is possible to install an LPG system to it. The same for turbo, but this is a more expensive and less profitable installation. In both units, you have to keep an eye on the oil level and change it quite often. Especially in the turbo engine, because a lot of petrol gets into the oil, which degrades it faster. It is clear from the prices of cars which variants are better and which are worse. The decidedly cheaper diesels are not a coincidence. These are high-risk cars. The safest is to buy a weak but durable and fairly simple 2.0 petrol variant, and if the power is insufficient, look for the American 2.5 variant. Turbo petrol is also good, but a bit more demanding, both in terms of service and finances. What's broken? Users rarely complain about this car. If they have any reservations, they are about trifles, such as soft paint or soundproofing. Sometimes there are air conditioning system failures. In newer cars, the expensive R1234YF refrigerant may be used. Rarely, although it happens that the 2.0 engine takes oil in large quantities, and here changing the oil to a higher viscosity helps. The manufacturer generally allows 5W30 as the highest, but engines cope well even on 10W50/60ths. However, it is a good idea to consult this with a mechanic. The suspension of the Forester SJ is not very durable, but servicing is usually limited to replacing elements such as silent blocks or connectors. In cars actually used off-road, it is to be expected that such parts will need to be replaced more often. The braking system may also not work properly due to dirt. It is absolutely necessary to remember about anti-corrosion protection if the car will not be kept in a garage, and especially when it is to be used in mountainous areas or off-road. It is very sensitive in this respect. Also, when buying a car, even a relatively young one, you need to check the condition of the chassis. Then it is good to spend a few thousand on proper protection than after a few years wondering what to do next. Electrical failures are quite common in American versions, not because they are bad, but because of their accident history. If the car was imported as seriously damaged, it can be repaired at a cost, which has more serious consequences in the long run. Thanks for listening to me. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and rate my video. If you know any problems with this car that I didn't mention, be sure to write about them in the comments.